in the Arctic and Antarctic zones is very remarkable and significant. At places of comparable latitude north and south, the sun also behaves very differently than it should on the globe model, but exactly as expected over a flat Earth. For example, in the north, dawn and dusk come slowly and last far longer than in the south, where they come and go very quickly. Certain places in the north, twilight can last for over an hour, while at comparable southern latitudes, within a few minutes the sunlight completely disappears. Also, the longest summer days north of the equator are much longer than those south of the equator, and the shortest winter days north of the equator are much shorter than the shortest south of the equator. These facts are inexplicable on a uniformly spinning, wobbling ball Earth, but make perfect sense on a flat Earth with a sun traveling faster, wider circles over the south and slower, narrower circles over the north. 16. The Midnight Sun. The midnight sun is an Arctic phenomenon occurring annually during the summer solstice, where for several days straight, observers north of the Arctic Circle can watch the sun traveling circles overhead, rising and falling throughout the day, but never fully setting for upwards of 72 plus hours. If the Earth was actually a spinning globe revolving around the sun, the only place such a phenomenon as the midnight sun could be observed would be at the poles. Any other vantage point, from 89 degrees latitude downwards, could never, regardless of any tilt or inclination, see the sun for over 24 hours straight. To do so on a spinning globe, at a point other than the poles, you would have to be looking through miles and miles of land and sea for part of the revolution. Some people claim there is a similar phenomenon in Antarctica, but they coincidentally don't have any uncut videos showing this. The few videos available online have been suspiciously edited or manipulated, and the Antarctic Treaty doesn't allow independent explorers to travel there during the winter solstice to verify or refute these claims. Conversely, there are dozens of uncut videos publicly available showing the Arctic midnight sun, and it has been verified beyond any shadow of a doubt, as anyone can travel and confirm for themselves. Furthermore, every year from the 71st degree south latitude onwards, the sun sets on May 17th, and is not seen above the horizon again until July 21st. This is totally at odds with the globe model, but easily explained on a flat Earth. The midnight sun is seen within the Arctic Circle during summer solstice, because the sun, at its innermost cycle, is circling tightly enough around the polar center that it constantly remains visible above the horizon for someone at such a vantage point. Likewise, in extreme southern latitudes during that time, the sun completely disappears from view for over 2 months, because there at the northern tropic, at the innermost cycle of its boomerang journey, the sun is circling the northern center too tightly to be seen from the southern circumference. 17. Polaris. In the heliocentric model, they claim Earth is a globe spinning 1,000 miles per hour around its axis, while revolving tens of thousands of miles per hour around the sun, while the entire solar system circles hundreds of thousands of miles per hour around the Milky Way, and the entire galaxy shoots millions of miles per hour more off through infinite space. In reality, no one in history has ever seen, heard, felt, or measured such motions, and everyone can clearly see for themselves that Polaris, the pole star, situated directly over the North Pole center of Earth, never moves, night after night, year after year, century after century, with all the other fixed stars remaining fixed in their relative constellations, revolving perfect circles around it. Such circular star trails around an unmoving pole star, seen in time-lapse photos, prove that it is the stars themselves moving and not the Earth. If Earth was truly a tilting, wobbling, spinning space ball undergoing these multiple contradictory motions through the universe, you would only ever see irregular, random, spiral-shaped star trails, and the night sky would never be the same twice. It would be impossible for constellations to exist whatsoever if Earth was truly performing all these various theoretical motions. Quoting 100 Proofs Earth is Not a Globe by William Carpenter, why in the name of common sense should observers have to fix their telescopes on solid stone bases so that they should not move a hair's breadth, if the Earth on which they fix them moves at the rate of 19 miles in a second. Indeed, to believe that 6,000 million tons is rolling, surging, flying, darting on through space forever, with a velocity compared with which a shot from a cannon is a very slow coach, with such unerring accuracy that a telescope fixed on granite pillars in an observatory will not enable a lynx-eyed astronomer to detect a variation in its onward motion of the 1,000th part of a hair's breadth, is to conceive a miracle compared with which all the miracles on record put together would sink into utter insignificance. Since we can, in middle north latitudes, see the North Star on looking out of a window that faces it, and out of the very same corner of the very same pane of glass in the very same window all the year round, it is proof enough for any man in his senses that we have made no motion at all, and that the earth is not a globe. 18. Sigma Octantis. Sigma Octantis is claimed to be a southern central pole star similar to Polaris, around which the southern hemisphere stars all rotate around the opposite direction. Unlike Polaris, however, Sigma Octantis cannot be seen simultaneously from every point along the same latitude. It is not central, but allegedly 1 degree off center. It is not motionless, and in fact cannot be seen at all using commercially available telescopes. There is legitimate speculation regarding whether Sigma Octantis even exists. The heliocentric model claims stars south of the equator revolve the opposite direction around Sigma Octantis, but in reality, all the luminaries revolve the same direction, east to west, around Polaris, like in a planetarium dome. Our Earth planetarium, however, is too vast for any observer to see all the stars simultaneously from one vantage point, so their apparent motion, angle, and inclination changes based on perspective and the exact direction faced. Quoting Earth Not a Globe by Dr. Samuel Robotham, another thing is certain, that from within the equator, the North Pole star, and the constellations Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, and many others can be seen from every meridian simultaneously, whereas in the south, from the equator, neither the so-called South Pole star nor the remarkable constellation of the Southern Cross can be seen simultaneously from every meridian, showing that all the constellations of the South Pole star included sweep over a great southern arc and across the meridian, from their rise in the evening to their setting in the morning. But if the Earth is a globe, Sigma Octantis, a South Pole star, and the Southern Cross, a southern circumpolar constellation, they would all be visible at the same time from every longitude on the same latitude, as is the case with the Northern Pole star and the northern circumpolar constellations. Such, however, is not the case. 19. Local sun. Heliocentrists' astronomical figures always sound perfectly precise, but they have historically been notorious for regularly and drastically changing them to suit their various models. For instance, in his time, Copernicus calculated the sun's distance from Earth to be exactly 3,391,200 miles. The next century, Johannes Kepler decided it was actually 12,376,800 miles away. Isaac Newton said during his time that, quote, "It matters not whether we reckon it 28 or 54 million miles distant, for either would do just as well." Benjamin Martin calculated between 81 and 82 million miles. Thomas Dilworth claimed 93,726,900 miles. John Hine stated positively 95,298,260 miles. Benjamin Gould said more than 96 million miles, and Christian Mayer thought it was more than 104 million. Nowadays, current heliocentric theorists have settled on a figure of 93 million miles, but all of these ridiculous distances are easily proven wrong by the same method flat earthers have used for centuries. Measuring with sextants and calculating with plane trigonometry, both the sun and moon figure to be only approximately 30 miles in diameter and less than 3,000 miles away. Furthermore, amateur balloon footage taken above the clouds has provided stunning visual proof that the sun cannot be millions of miles away. In several shots, you can see a clear hot spot reflecting on the clouds directly below the sun's spotlight-like influence. If the sun were actually millions of miles away, such a small, localized hot spot could not occur. Another proof the sun is not millions of miles away is found by tracing the angle of sun rays back to their source above the clouds. There are countless pictures and videos showing how sunlight comes down through cloud cover at a variance of converging angles. The area of convergence is of course the sun, and is clearly not millions of miles away, but rather relatively close to Earth. The fact that the sun and moon's reflections on water always form a straight line path from the horizon all the way to the observer also proves Earth is not a ball. If Earth's surface was curved, it would be impossible for the reflected light to bend over the ball. 20. Scientific experiments. Several experiments have been performed and repeated by notable scientists like Albert Michelson, Edward Morley, George Airy, and George Sagnac, proving that it is the stars that revolve around a stationary Earth and not the other way around. The conclusive results of their experiments are not contested or even mentioned in modern astronomy books, but rather conveniently swept under the carpet to keep prying minds from seeing through the lies. For example, the experiment known as Airy's failure, since it failed to confirm heliocentricity, proved that the stars move relative to a stationary Earth, and not the other way around. By first filling a telescope with water to slow down the speed of light inside, then calculating the tilt necessary to give the starlight directly down the tube, Airy failed to prove the heliocentric theory, since the starlight was already coming in the correct angle, with no change necessary, and instead proved the geocentric model. The Michelson-Morley, Michelson-Gale, and Sagnac experiments also attempted to measure the change in speed of light due to Earth's assumed motion through space. After measuring in every possible different direction in various locations, they all failed to detect any significant change whatsoever, again proving the stationary geocentric model. Suffice to say, these 20 points are just scratching the surface, and there are many, many more proofs available, both in William Carpenter's book, 100 Proofs Earth is Not a Globe, and my own book, 200 Proofs Earth is Not a Spinning Ball.
Why lie about the shape of the Earth? It just seems irrelevant. But imagine if you are a real forward-thinking psychopath, and you want to create a new worldview for your subjects. Where do you start? What's the first big lie that you have to tell everyone so that you can totally control their worldview and become their authority figure, because you know things that they don't know, that they can't access about reality, that you've figured out and it's been established, and they just have to trust you now. Well, obviously, cosmology, the Earth, and everything beyond us, in the sky, above and below. So if you're going to fashion a worldview for your subjects beneath you, and the whole point is to lie to them so that you can gain control over them, the first, the biggest, the most fundamental, foundational lie you need to tell is this one. People have just been under the spell for so long that they can't even see, why would you lie about this thing, the shape of the Earth? It seems so irrelevant. It's not. It's incredibly relevant. If you're going to... So imagine if you took somebody captive since childhood, put them in a box, and all they knew was whatever you told them from their box. They'd never get outside, know anything about the outside world. You get to feed them all information about what's outside the box. Well, that's literally what is happening to us. Like you said, with the Antarctic Treaty, with NASA telling us what is out in outer space above us. Oh, it's millions and billions and trillions of miles. Oh, okay. And so then we get in our imaginations like they're making us do, rather than be physical explorers like we can and should do, and then we'd actually find answers. But we don't have that kind of thinking because we've been given these pseudo answers and placated and thinking we know things that we don't know. And so that is what the controllers are doing, and why they're doing it is because this fundamentally makes you think you know things that you don't know. So then you grow this ego inside of you